We continue our Decision Wilmington series as eyes remain fixed on the city's race for mayor. And with Delaware's primary election now a little more than a month away, this week, Democratic mayoral candidate Bill Montgomery joins us on First. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shirley. Great to be here.
We've asked the other candidates who've been on, but we want to ask you, give us your 30-second pitch.
My campaign's been working on me. I've got it down to about 28 minutes, but 30-second pitch, I think a couple things. One, I'm the most experienced person running for this office. That's sort of a simple fact. I have the experience running the city of Wilmington and in other jobs in my career. I've had a 35-plus year career in public service. I've worked in all capacities, and I understand the needs of the city. I understand the strengths of the city. I want to put together a platform for the city and a plan for the future that makes it a safer, a stronger, a more vibrant, and a more responsive city. So I think I have a unique set of skills and abilities to bring that about.
Up until April, you were running the city's day-to-day operations as Mayor Baker's chief of staff. We're talking 11 years here under your belt. Some voters are not happy with how Mayor Baker has run the city. Is it fair to judge you on Mayor Baker's record? You know, that people are saying if you are elected, it's another 4 more years of Mayor Baker.
I think my answer to that is, or my question maybe to those folks is, have you ever had a job? Have you ever done what the boss wanted you to do? I think I was a very able administrator for the city and a good implementer of the mayor's vision over those 11 years. And I had to take issue with some folks. I think there have been many great advancements and achievements in the last 11 years, and I give Jim Baker credit for those. However, I have my own vision for this city, and I need to move the city forward with my vision. I'm not running to be chief of staff anymore. I want to find my own Bill Montgomery or Wilhelmina Montgomery or whoever that might be to do the detail work of running the city, helping run the departments. I want to put my vision in place in this city and move the city forward. We've made strides in the last 11 to 12 years, last several decades, but we need to keep the momentum going. Momentum to me, is the key of this whole situation.
What are some of the components of this vision that you're speaking of?
Well, I've been working in the public safety area, and I'm not a policeman. I don't pretend to be, but I've been studying what are some of the best practices around the country. We have a serious problem in this city. We have families torn apart by violence. And last weekend I was down in South Wilmington. A young lady down there named Carolyn Marklin has put together a memorial garden for the families who are affected by violence. And if you get to hear the folks who are involved, the violence doesn't just affect the folks that leave us, it affects families and affects families for generations. It cuts a hole in the hearts of the folks who are left behind. I want to work hard on changing that, and I've come up with my own plan for that, and it's pretty broad-based, and it deals with obviously continuing to be tough on the worst criminals out there. The most violent offenders out in this community need to be put behind bars. That goes without saying. But I've been looking at technology things in other cities that help the police respond more quickly, that keep the officers more safe. I've been looking at other things. Another element of my plan is the idea of bringing in the folks who are in, I'll call the B team in the guns and the drugs in the city, bringing them in, and you have a community-wide really intervention. You bring in family members, you bring in the folks who are influential in that person's life, and you sit down with them and you bring in the police agencies from the Wilmington Police all the way up to the ATF and the FBI. You let that person know that we know what you're doing, we know you're in the game, we know, and we're coming after you. But if you're willing to turn your life around, we're willing to help you. And I think that's a big switch. That's a cultural shift that needs to happen here in the city with regard to policing. It's been said over and over again by everybody on all sides of this issue that you can't just arrest your way out. And I agree with that, but it's not enough to just say that. You've got to figure out what are the next steps.
Is that strategy part of what Wilmington Police Department, when they went to High Point, North Carolina, is that strategy being implemented into your vision to make our streets safer?
I've definitely been affected by the Safe Communities model from Professor Kennedy up at the John Jay School. Why? Because it's working. It is working in about 70 cities around this country. And it's not the only tool in the tool shed, don't get me wrong. I think there are a lot of things we need to be doing. But it's one of those that will help make the long-term change we need in the city. We've got to save lives. We've got to prevent violence, and you can do that by taking an active step with these folks. The governor has been really good about buying into this concept as well, this program. The department heads in Health and Social Services, in the Kids Department, in the Labor Department, they are helping by providing the services, the Medicaid cards, the therapy that might be needed by these folks to turn their lives around. But you need a moral voice. The moral voice can't be just the police chief, the mayor. It's got to be everybody. It's got to be the community people all speaking with one voice that we are not going to tolerate what you've been doing to this community and the ruination that you've caused, but we're here for you. We're going to help you turn your life around. It can happen, and I strongly believe in it. But there are other things, Shirley, too, that I think need to be part and parcel of that. There's a long-standing misunderstanding, I'll say, between community people and the police, and perhaps a little bit vice versa. And I want to set a series of meetings where we sit down, community people, police, and talk openly about the misconceptions that each has about the other. I think there are some police who think, well, there's so much crime going on in neighborhood X that everybody there must be in on it. That's not true. We know that. There are people in those communities who want a safe place. They want to be able to sit on their porch. They want to let the kids play free. But they're a little afraid, and rightfully so. There are folks, too, in the community who look at the police, I think, somewhat askance and say, oh, all they're out here to do is arrest us, arrest us, arrest us. We've got to get a dialogue going. We've got to get those people talking together. I think if they talk together in a real constructive way, if they address issues that people don't want to necessarily address, talk about the issue of race and what it means to people and what misconceptions they have about those issues. I think if you get those things out on the table and you get people talking together, that's the kind of long-term change we need in the city.
Community members, though, have voiced to you that they'd be willing to step up and take part in something like that.
Absolutely. I've been knocking on doors now for 4 months, and I think a lot of people say, well, you can't really put much faith in the voters. They don't understand there are a lot of savvy people in the city. I've gotten inspiration, I've gotten insights from, unexpected quarters, shall I say, as I knock on doors around the city. I think there are people who do want to build a better city, a stronger city. And I want to bring people together. That's been what I've done my whole career. Is I'm somebody who brings people together. I'm a negotiator, I'm a diplomat, and I'm a consensus builder. So I want to bring that to bear. That's part of my own vision for the city. It's a different tone at the top, perhaps, but I think it's needed.
Mayor Baker's focused a lot of attention on the riverfront, development of the riverfront. Do you feel, in your opinion, that all of the attention on the riverfront has come at the expense of some of these neighborhoods? Not far from our studios, we have West Center City that's been a hotbed of murders and shootings. You were saying South Wilmington. Has that development come at the expense of keeping these other neighborhoods safe?
No, I don't think so at all. And it's not so much where the mayor wants to develop, it's where the business community and the investors want to develop. So there's been a lot of good development on the riverfront, very little of that funded by the city, by the way. So the city's been a great beneficiary of that development, whether it's the housing, the restaurants, the new movie theaters coming in, the new hotel. The entire city will benefit from that because that will help raise the tax base, and it helps the neighborhoods because it keeps taxes down. The worst thing we could do right now is go on some tax and spend frenzy here. That's really going to hurt the neighborhoods. But there are efforts underway in the neighborhoods, and there have been. There's been over $40 million spent throughout the city in the last decade in the various neighborhoods. But the problem, I think, is the needs are so great that you could pour 10 times that into the neighborhoods of Wilmington. You might not see a real obvious shift. But there are efforts underway. The efforts that I think are more important that are underway are things like you mentioned West Center City. The neighbors in West Center City got together and they did a plan. They worked together. They've come up with a document with the help of a national bank, and they have a really decent plan for West Center City. They need somebody to help them implement that now. That will take dollars. That will take a mayor who can go to the foundations, to the national organizations, and find some real dollars to do real impactful work in the community. Folks out on the west side have done the same thing. They've got the West Side Grows group has a plan out there. Folks in the northeast have done a blueprint communities, and in the east side. So neighbors in the city are doing really good work and trying to vision what they want. It's not always, the mayor's vision is important, obviously, but the mayor needs to reflect the vision of the people.
I know, are you trying to separate yourself? I know there are a lot of questions dealing with Mayor Baker and your relationship with him. How are you separating yourself from him?
I think the main thing that I do is let people know who I am, and that I have a brain of my own, number one. I have a plan of my own, a vision of my own. I do not try to run from my association from Jim Baker. I'm supposed to, if you listen to some people, I'm supposed to kick him to the curb and say bad things about him. I can't do that. The man has been a great leader of this city for many years. He's one of the most honest politicians you're ever going to find. I'll let him defend himself the rest of the way. But his legacy, I think, when it's finally told, will be a good one. And he's not, if you look at the last 11 years in city government, and I'll take some credit for this too, it's been without corruption, it's been without scandal, it's been a well-run city. We've collected over $104 million of bucks owed the city through people who owe water and taxes and other stuff. If you don't do those kind of things, the residents of the city get it in the neck. They end up paying for other people's mistakes. So I don't apologize for my my influence on the city in the last 11 years, but I think the city's at a crossroads. I am running because I think, at least among the group running here, I have the best qualities, capabilities, the best set of characteristics to run the city and actually know what's going on. I don't need on-the-job training. I won't have to spend the first 6 months figuring out what's on what floor and who's who. I know the people of the city. We have some really good employees of the city, and they are looking for some continuity and something that they can hold on to as well.
All right, Bill Montgomery, Democratic candidate for mayor. Thank you so much for being here today.